Yeah, well, I think there's a difference between practicing a martial art and being a martial artist. I mean, in one instance, you go to the dojo a few times a week and practice sort of as a hobby. In the other, you make a deliberate attempt to extrapolate those lessons into your everyday existence. I think there's a qualitative difference there. It goes from actually doing something to being something. And I know that's what attracted me 50 years ago when I first set foot into a dojo, because what I was witnessing was sort of the warrior priest archetype being manifest. And I use that term as a seeker. I think that's a deeply personal journey. That's why, for example, I don't belong to any organization, because I don't necessarily think we find our salvation via the institution. You find it through your direct connection. So, for example, our community, Sunday Morning Keiko community, is not a traditional organization per se. I wanted to try to remove myself from some of that politics because, I mean, we can see what politics have done to the state of affairs in our everyday lives. I think getting back to celebrating the individual and creating an environment where people can have a collective voice and be inspired, I think that's a totally different element, the element of inspiration. And I think we all have the capacity to inspire one another. I gravitate back towards that because that is what has sustained my practice. And I think if we want to look after the longevity of Karate-Do as an experience, then we need to present it that way. So the feeling is just driving energy through your body. It's like qualitatively different. So what you don't want is you don't want to be too preoccupied with making a perfect movement. You know, like Bruce Lee once said, he said, many martial artists practice their art with too much concern. In other words, they're very in their head about making a perfect technique. When I would say, no, that's just the opposite of what you want. And in fact, that's taking you away from this feeling of just connecting. And I think if your body is truly compliant, it will just surrender to your intention, and that's ultimately what you want. So the idea is that, that the function actually drives the form. And when my body's available, it wraps itself around that intention and makes the connection. I think even, if you think about even like the very first time you went into a dojo and you were taught a stance, you were told, 60% of your weight on the front leg, 40% on the back, your feet are in a certain orientation. But later, you don't think that. Later, all you think is that the stance is accommodating what is my intention with my center. It's just a vehicle to apply my center. For instance, a forward stance essentially is driving my center to the front. So maybe ala otsuki, this feeling of connecting my center to the front. Or toku tsudachi, basically have my center back here kind of locked and loaded as a potential. And all the other stances, kibadachi, sochen dachi, hangetsu dachi, all just a myriad of what am I doing with my center. And I think that's what you want to arrive at. Whereas Saltome sensei says to me many times, he says, Rick, no more form. And I get that.